Welcome. Now, Johnny Patterson is in such hot demand, Philippa, please do take a seat, that we've whisked him for a backstage interview, so we are greeting him. Welcome, everybody. Can I have a warm round of applause for our final group of panellists for Elite Business Live 2025. Unbelievable. So we'll hear more about all of your different adventures. But before we start, just to help us all, would you raise your hands in the studio if your business is currently exporting? You have customers outside the UK, hands up. Okay, a smattering. And hands up if customers outside the UK is something you are actively seeking in the next 1 year. Okay, so that's probably another third of the room. Great. Joining me, first of all, Jade Buffong-Phillips is the founder and CMO of Main Hookup. So this is a booking platform. Jade, tell us a little bit more.
Yeah, so it's a beauty booking platform specifically for people with textured hair. So we help them find hairstylists that they can trust in their local area.
Yeah, great. So initially, obviously, out of the UK, but now beyond, right?
Yeah, in New York.
Yeah, congratulations. I want to hear how you did that. Breaking the big apple, thank you. Pavlo Phitidis, welcome back to Elite Business Live.
Thank you.
Leading Auric Business over 3 different continents. What you've helped with is not only conceptualizing businesses, helping them launch, but also helping them go global. Just give us a sense of what that's involved, because it's spanned many different industries.
Yeah, well, we're in 5 countries now. We've managed to expand. And we got dragged into the countries by clients in countries that we operate in because we get paid on growth. They're seeking growth in markets abroad. We get pulled into those markets. And effectively what we do is we build a blueprint, a scale-up blueprint that allows you to stabilize the goose that lays the golden egg, and from that, launch into new markets effectively.
And our question to you is what you've learnt working with those businesses today. But welcome back, Pavlo. Next to you, Lucie McLeod is the founder and CEO of Hair Syrup. So this is another great product business, isn't it, Lucie? Just give us a flavour, as it were, vegan as well. What is it?
So we sell a range of natural pre-wash hair oil treatments. I started the business sort of by accident when I was in university. And yeah, now we've scaled to a fairly considerable size. And I was on Dragon's Den a few months ago. Well,
you were, and I think they're regretting it now. But tell us how that went.
Oh, you have to watch the episode. I won't give any spoilers. It was interesting, but it's exactly what the business needed. So it's sort of catapulted us into new directions, which was, yeah, what we'd hoped it would do.
And a very brief snapshot of globally where that now puts you in terms of the international markets.
Yeah, so we're having conversations with a couple of different distributors, and we're looking at finalising in the next 2 months an international retail strategy. So this is all quite new to me. I've obviously got no experience in anything. I started it when I was 21.
No, so this is perfect. So we want to hear the sort of early reflections on that. Philippa White leads, I want to say Thai or TIE, Thai leadership. And what you've done, Philippa, is fascinating because you've led executives from some incredible firms on learning journeys around the world, really opening their eyes in a sense. Just tell us how that's worked in practice.
Well, I mean, I like to say I take people to the edge of their mental maps and I gently nudge them off, forcing an evolution of behavior change. And it's all about knowing that when we step out of our zones of comfort, that's actually when we grow, but to be able to develop the competencies that we need in our businesses moving forward, PowerPoint presentations can't do that. So I do it in experiential ways in a number of different methoes, and yeah, all for the betterment. Now
I'm thinking about bush tucker trials and survival now. If we came on a learning journey with you, what's the sort of thing we would experience together?
If you ask how, it's about exposing people to global challenges around the world, and so we do that in 29 countries around the world. And it can be in person, it can be virtually, it can be at scale, it can be individuals, but the whole purpose is to get people out of their silos and out of their really rigid, square ways of thinking and developing those competencies that we all need for running our businesses.
Love that. Okay, so I can see some more sign-ups coming your way. I mean, if we come back to that question, if we only had 2 minutes left, and by the way, we want lots of questions in this final session, if you could just say one thing about crossing borders and breaking barriers, you can be as blunt as you like. Jade, where do you get us started?
I would say focus is everything.
Okay, a little bit more.
Well, focus is everything, because choosing the right locations and choosing for me, city by city is the route that we've gone down. I think that can actually make or break whether you land or not.
Right, so help us to learn this lesson, just very briefly. I'll get everyone else's pithy response, but to what extent does focus come after exploration, or were you focused right from the start?
Well, no, right at the beginning, when we were mainly in the UK, it was what parts of the country actually need us the most. When we were building like our scrappy MVP, it was how many hairstylists can we get from the different parts of the country? Like, where do they need us? And we found places like, London, obviously, Dublin, Manchester, a few others. But America is a completely different beast.
Yeah.
Much, much bigger, many more people, many other things that you have to navigate your way through. So it's like, okay, if we have to start with one place, where would that be?
Yeah.
And so that's when we started to focus.
And the single biggest thing you've learned about your New York, sort of North American adventures so far?
The problems are actually very similar. It's not as different as we would have thought. So that has actually been a blessing, because it means that we don't have to have like massive changes to the product.
Okay, well, that's actually refreshing, isn't it? Philippa, you've got this global perspective. If you distilled down the one thing you'd say about crossing borders?
So I'm going to answer from a completely different point of view, because it is absolutely crucial for any leader to be able to do that. Because for us to be able to develop teams that aren't hiring people like ourselves, for us to be able to empathize, and so my answer would be empathy. Yeah. For us to be able to empathize with different ways of doing things, for us to be able to be flexible and resilient, all of that, those competencies, it all comes down to basically empathy and understanding. And if we look at the key thing for any business, what you need is engagement. You need people to be engaged. If your people are engaged, they're 23% more profitable. And that comes down to empathy. And how do you develop that empathy? Because hanging out with a whole load of people who are exactly like you all the time, it's impossible.
And that pushes new meaning into that sense of sort of crossing borders.
You need to cross borders to be able to develop those skills, and that's what I do.
And Pablo, bear in mind that we've got sort of our budding students, myself included, on this export journey. Lesson number 1, how do you start the class?
Triple your timeline. Whatever you think it's going to take, it'll take 3 times longer. Double your budget and your cash burn rate. Because whatever you think it's going to cost at least twice as much. Don't believe the Excel model. And critically, I'm going to go back to something you said, Jade. If you in your business over here are not doing well, it's unlikely you'll do well there. So safeguard, build, nurture, stabilize the goose that lays the golden egg that forms the credibility and platform for you to be there. My final point, Ollie, if you're required for more than 20% of your time in operational activities here, you're not ready to go abroad, because going abroad needs to be led by the leader of the business, the person who's carrying the can and all the risk of exploring the new market and entering into it.
So interesting. So that's a great provocation. So if we're thinking that we'll just dispatch somebody or it's got to involve us.
Got to involve you, your interpretation, because you make the decision on risk.
Right, well, Lucie, McLeod, I hope we're not putting you off here, Lucie, by the way. But I want to know what it looks like from the start line of chapter 2 for you.
Well, I think you've just hit the nail. That's exactly how I feel, but unintentionally, I think I have followed that model. I knew that you had to crack the UK market before you thought about, that was just sort of common sense to me. And then I've had it validated by people like you, who obviously know more than me. But I was like, right, I have to get into, my target was I have to get into Boots. And then once I'm in Boots in the UK, then other retailers abroad will take me seriously. And it's the same thing, like I've just hired a COO, so because I knew that I would have to, my attention would have to be focused on that expansion. But it is really difficult, and someone like me, I've built this business literally from nothing, and I've always said since the beginning, when I was hand pouring these oils in my parents' conservatory as a student, I say, oh, these will be in Boots one day, and everyone would really laugh at me. And I'm such a visionary, and I'm always, I want to be everywhere, I want to have it everywhere, I want my brand everywhere. But like you said, that is not realistic. You have to narrow it down, find markets where it's actually going to work. And there's so many things to take into account: your packaging, your marketing, your product price point.
And just briefly, staying with you on this, Lucie, you're now looking at the globe. You're thinking, well, let's say we're on the shelves in Boots, okay, tick. The globe is spinning. How are you even contemplating? I mean, for Jade, the needle stopped over New York City. I mean, I don't blame you. How will you decide where to go?
Well, we look at, so we actually only do under 3% of our revenue comes from exporting at the moment. So we obviously want to increase that substantially this year. The way that we personally did it was looked at this, even though it's a small proportion of our sales, where people B2C, where are they buying from us? And also looking at, because we obviously sell hair oil, because there are the search engines to figure out where that is rising. So a big place for us has been the Nordics and Australia.
But there's a sort of, I mean, you can call it philosophical if you like, Pavlo, but there's a conundrum there. If I sell shoes, do I head for a country that loves shoes or where nobody wears shoes? I know it's quite an old tale, but it's a serious question, isn't it?
Yeah, it very much is. So I think, a good starting point is to appreciate that whatever product you have, whatever service you have, is already there. In other words, we're all playing in the commodity cycle. We're all commodities. So the big question to ask then is what will distinguish and set you apart from an established market with established competitors? If you don't find that point of distinction, it's unlikely you're ever going to find traction there. Right. And the answer lies in the behavior of those customers and clients. Your success here results from solving problems for a well-defined group of clients that understand and resonate with how you communicate and use language. For example, in the UK, we say, scale up so you can have more impact on the clients you serve. In the United States, we say, scale up so you can dominate one or two segments. The lexicon is where the subtle points of difference lie.
Yeah,
really, it takes a year to learn that lexicon. It really takes time.
And on the point that Pavlo's making there and made in his first answer, Philippa, there is a conundrum there for companies, isn't there? Do they pour themselves personally into that market? Do they hire a local pair of boots on the ground? Do they send one of their top players out to that international market? I mean, to your point on empathy, I mean, it is a conundrum. How would you even think they approach that?
So I am not an expert in my business has clients in different places around the world. One of my clients, for example, is a Danish client, and they're a very large business there. They are in other markets as well. They're a global brand. But my clients are the innovation team. Now, what's really interesting is from the point of view of that team, they are mostly at the moment Danish, but the problem is that they are so stuck in their own world and thinking in that way and they really struggle with change, and they're the innovation department. They really struggle with change, and they really struggle with thinking out of the industry that they work in.
Yes.
And is it hiring different people in other places? Possibly, but it's a mindset shift. And that's what needs to change. It's an understanding that you need to be curious and creative and think outside of your world, and you need to push people to think like that. So it's not necessarily about cutting people. It's not necessarily about hiring somebody in Dubai. Yeah, that might help, and they have. But I think what we're doing is we're working with the leadership team and over 100 people at the business to be able to change that mindset shift so they're keen to connect and collaborate and be curious and be creative.
And in terms of how you've done that so far, Jade, on the ground, has it involved flying out through JFK? Have you done it from your desk in London? I'm just trying to understand what that takes in practice.
To be fair, for us, it's actually been a lot of collaborating with people out in the States. finding people like team members that were already out there, and also having half of our advisory board out there. So
well, hang on, that doesn't happen by accident. Tell us how that came to pass, because that's powerful.
Yeah, I mean, my first 2 advisors I found in the UK through an event that I went to, got along with them very well. Yeah. When we got to a point that we said, okay, well, the US is the biggest market for the black hair industry anyway. It is the biggest market in terms of the number of people to serve, the amount of money that's spent, even the innovation in the space. Everybody looks to the States. So it was a no-brainer, we're going there. At that point, it's, okay, who do we want on our board? Who do we want internally?
And then you start targeting.
And then you start going out and speaking to people and making those, getting those introductions. A lot of our advisors came through warm introductions. Yep. And they've been people who have worked at the likes of Unilever, people that have built their own beauty tech companies and exited. Yeah. So that was one of the big points. Yeah. And then we went and hired our head of education and community in the States. Yeah. So she was based in New York at the time, and she's between New York and Michigan. But the idea is we wanted to have somebody that was there, that is embedded in the hair industry. So
this is really helpful steps on this journey. We're going to see what questions we've got in the room. But just very briefly, flipping it round, Philippa, one thing you can do brilliantly, you can almost look back at the UK from a global perspective, because sometimes we almost need to remind ourselves of some of the strengths that are innate in businesses like Jade's, like Lucie's, like the many that Pavlo's advised, right? What do you see?
So it's interesting because obviously I live in Brazil. My business is here. I'm Canadian, was born in South Africa. I have a very global perspective, but my clients are mostly here, other than in Denmark, and anyway, mostly here. And so it's really interesting to see how the Brits are seeing themselves, particularly at the moment, because it's a difficult time economically, and there's a lot of instability, and people, I mean, the Brits are just so downplaying, but I think what is extraordinary, when I'm not a massive fan of North America. I know that it's a big market. I come from there, very polemic. I love Britain. Why? Britain is extraordinary. If you look at the creative industries, advertising, fashion, film, you look at the financial industries, you look at education. I will say I have a British passport, we are powerhouses in these areas. Yet we don't stand up and talk about how absolutely fantastic we are, but we are leaders. And I think if I was to compare my clients that I've worked with in the UK versus clients in the US, I would say the majority of the people that I have worked with and the companies I've worked with, advertising agencies, financial institutions, Octopus has been a client of mine. So it's about people first, and it's understanding the importance of people. If you treat people well, profit follows. And if it's just about money, people don't engage with that. People engage with leaders that understand them and purpose. And I would say that the UK has been extraordinary in that in so many sectors. And if you understand that, then you find your points of difference. You find the people who buy into what you're wanting to do, and you can drive that leadership.
And we need to be reminded of that sometimes. Let's get some questions. We've got some coming in from online. Thank you. We'll get questions from here in London as well. If you raise your hand, we'll come to you. I'll see you there. I'm looking around our studio as well. Why don't we go? We'll come back to the front row. But if I could redirect you, thank you so much. Sorry. Just out on the, because I sometimes miss out on the sides there. Welcome. Question, please.
Hi, my name's David. I'm a co-founder with my wife. We run a social media agency, and my question's for Lucie, because from your kind of experience on Dragon's Den, I feel like you've really leveraged that as a marketing play. So for those in the room that maybe struggle with social media or marketing, what would your kind of top 3 pieces of advice be?
Right, thank you, David.
Sorry, I'm looking at my social media manager laughing. We had quite a lot of fun on TikTok after I got rejected, spoiler, by All Six Dragons, which was quite shocking because financially my business is doing pretty well. It's been one of the biggest that's ever been on the show. But anyway, we were already viral before we went on. And then when we went on, we knew it would just explode, and that it did. We had something like 22 million profile views in less than a week, and we got 50,000 new followers. And we literally did that through having fun and being completely authentic, being ourselves, being a little bit risque, tongue-in-cheek sometimes, but that is how you do social media. And I give so many talks about TikTok. I'm one of their biggest hair care sellers. I work very closely with them. And I come to a lot of things like this, and the amount of times people look at me and they say, I'm too old to go on TikTok, I'm too this, I'm too that. And it's just not the case. TikTok loves everyone, anyone. There's a niche for everyone on there. And I would just say, whatever it is about you, your life, your story, don't try and copy other people. I always say this because there's so much more value in yourself and your life. And everyone on TikTok loves my dad. And you just don't know what people are going to like, so.
This is excellent advice. Let's get another question, and then we will read down some. Yes, in the front row. Yeah, thank you very much. Philippa, are you all right to go to question number 2? Can you see that? How long do you need? You say, I'll come to you next. If you can read.
Good afternoon. Is there ever such a thing as a safe market?
A safe market, in other words, one where you won't lose money, or
In a sense, would you always encourage businesses to go for the easiest market, the safest market, as a sort of stepping stone to a bigger market?
not necessarily. You know, if you look at the States, and that's the market that everyone in Britain is heavily favored towards. The reason is, if you think of Illinois as one state, it's the size of the British economy, literally. So one state is the size of the British economy, and people see dollar signs. But across the states, there are 9 different cultures. And every region, each of those 9 regions is like a separate country in its own right. And I think the best way to approach it is, there's a question over here, how long does it take to get to know a territory? I think it takes about 2-3 years. And you've got to land, invest in one area, and stick at it until you feel you get into some source of truth around what will make the business work or not.
Right, so let's just pull on that thread briefly, unless, Jade, do you want to come in on this?
Yeah, sure.
No, we'll do, because I want to draw this out with Philippa as well. Jade?
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to choosing a territory, like I said, we decided on America because biggest industry, biggest part of the world in terms of where all of our customers are. And then when we were looking at where to start, we looked at history. We just looked at, okay, when companies have started, whether they've been product companies, tech companies, services, and it's involved in the black hair industry, where have they started and how has it worked out? Turns out New York has been a big one. If we look at companies like Squire, so they're like a barber booking platform, and they are like worth billions now. And they were very similar, started small, started in New York, built gradually. And even if we look at some of the black hair companies over in the UK, so let's say Rooker Hair, very, very, very successful company. When they were migrating over to the States, they started in New York.
Yeah, so those clues.
Yeah, so you can see kind of in what's happened in the past.
And just to maximise the value of whatever trips we do make, though, Philippa, right? Because you're on this phrase, learning journey fascinates me, right? So now we've booked our flights to Finland or to New York, right? But we don't want it to be a waste of time. In other words, probably not going from air-conditioned room to air-conditioned room. We want to get under the skin of a potential new market. How do we maximise our time?
I mean, it's one thing that John Steele, who was the global planning director for WPP, always said, ride the bus. Yeah. And I just think it's really easy for people to, the headlines in Brazil, for example, is considered a really dangerous country. You can very easily just start to kind of, there's a lot of judgments that you can make. However, if you ride the bus, suddenly you understand, you get under the skin of whatever a place is. And I just think it takes time. That's why it's unbelievably important to be able to ask questions, listen to the answers. Who are you engaging with? How are you unearthing that information? And of course, it's important to have people on the ground, but I think even still, that's why, I worked in advertising for years. That's why you have focus groups. That way you ask people things. You sort of, you need to truly understand whoever your market is. But I think what's absolutely crucial is truly finding ways to understand your market.
Yeah, just get under
And that's why these competencies are absolutely crucial. It's asking the questions, it's active listening.
Thank you. Now in the interest of time, let's just take a final look out into the room. There are questions here about hiring workers in the UK or workers abroad, particularly if any of you are hiring workers abroad. What's your selection process like? So there's a few questions on that theme. Anyone speaking to that at the moment? Because presumably that's on your mind, Jade, about where the next talent is going to come from as you advertise for the next role, right?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, the first person that we looked for was our head of education.
Yeah,
So somebody that was a hairstylist, had history, found somebody who was incredible, who'd been like ex-celebrity hairstylist, now a product formulator and an educator. And for us, we actually started with focusing on equity first. So that made it much easier in terms of pulling talent in that were interested for the long run, especially because so much has to be invested in the tech. So it really depends on the type of company that you are. But we started with, okay, what is the gap in my knowledge and where do we need to go to first? We need stylists first, so we need somebody that's educated in that area.
Yeah, it makes sense. Briefly, Pavlo and Lucie, I'd love to know where your head's at on this. Depending on where you decide will be that first destination for you, where that talent will come from. Pavlo, did you want to come in on top of what Jade said?
Yeah, look, I think it's. Can I just complete one point that was made, a really important point? How do you get the most bang for buck per trip? Because these trips are expensive. And that is, you've got to plan them. So, for example, just understand if there's a trade show linked to your industry and coordinate your visit around the trade show. Before you go to the trade show, understand who your customers are and set up some customer engagements. Say you're coming, you want to learn, you want to engage. Find the channels that reach your customers, set up those engagements, and in a week and a half, you can set yourself up to have 30 meetings. And that process of immersion is chaotic in the beginning, but when you take distance from it, the truth shows itself. When it comes to people, I think the most important thing is your sales engagements, your business-to-business sales engagements, your business-to-consumer in-face sales engagements must be done at a local level. Your servicing and back office can operate from the base over here. But when you are in a new territory, speak the language, the lexicon, the tone, the tempo, the manner of that market.
Now, what would it take you to convince you otherwise, Pavlo?
Not much, other than I've lost a lot of money not doing it that way.
Because, Lucie, it must be on your mind. You must be thinking, I wonder if I could sell to Sydney retail stores without ever leaving the UK. Pavlo's suggesting you... I mean, do you see where I'm going, Pavlo?
No, but I want to just finish one point. In Lucie's case, that backstory, you know, pouring oils in a conservatory, and you can hear the passion. That passion is essential in that market because that will attract, Ollie, the right people that buy into Lucie's passion that then can face and engage the market.
Right. So I think our final word for now, because we're going to go and talk to Hannah shortly, is to Lucie. Give us your download, if you like, on where your head's at on this.
Well, if I'm from Wales, so I don't know if anyone in here is from Wales or... Yeah, so basically we are going to a trade show, which is quite exciting. In a couple of months, we're going to Cosmoprof, but the Welsh Government offer a lot of funding for the Welsh Government are investing basically in exporting. So they literally can cover flights and accommodation and sort your tickets out for you. So there's support.
Good. And adding to that, Philippa, my takeaway is as well, go with a brilliant group. Strength and power in numbers. Back to your learning journeys, Philippa, because actually going on your own is hard. Opening doors on your own is hard.
Yeah, I mean, I just think of, networking, networks. I think of myself actually. I mean, I'm here for business. I'm meeting with loads of clients. It's constantly having those conversations. And even if you're meeting with a client, ask the questions about what's going on. What are you worried about? What can I do to help you be successful? What keeps you up at night? The more you ask, the more you start to get a really clear understanding as to what's going on, and also where you can, how else you can help, what else you can do.
Now, thank you, Philippa. And by the way, thank you, Pavlo, for the work you've done advising so many businesses. I'm just going to give a final, and I'm going to get told off afterwards, but I'm prepared to get told off.
We're over, yeah.
10 seconds from Jade and from Lucie on how the Elite Business Live community can help you. Who would you like to meet? If we were back to Johnny's point about putting something out into the world, particularly on your export journey, Jade?
Oh, I would say brands or people who are interested in kind of collaborating. So hair product companies.
Dream brand that calls you up tomorrow, who would it be?
Or it would be Pattern Beauty.
Pattern Beauty.
Yes.
All right, we'll put our thinking caps on. Lucie.
I think I need Pavlo. To be honest.
Well, we're all about meeting our match here at Elite Business Live. But thank you.
Thanks
You've
for having
taken
us.
a global perspective and brought it to this stage in London. Thank you very much to Philippa, to Lucie, to Pavlo, and to Jade. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Well, we're going to send our guests with another round of applause off our stage, backstage to meet Hannah for another set of questions. And she is going to be with them momentarily. Why don't we give them another round of applause as they leave our stage? Thank you, everybody. Now, really exciting couple of announcements here, just to say Hannah's going to speak to the team. But I just wanted to say just a couple of things to round off our days here. I really hope, would you say you'd had a good time here at Elite Business Live? Yeah. Thank you. You have been a brilliant audience. I've loved what's happened here in the studio, and I've particularly loved the conversations I've had in the corridors and the networking spaces around as well. So thank you for being such a great audience. What we've got now taking place, and we'll try not to get told off by Hannah and the production team for making too much noise, but you know, we are a bit, we're now sort of getting into our after party mode, and you're invited. We're going to have some networking, of course, taking place in the main foyer, and some of our speakers and panellists will be looking forward to speaking to you. I'll be out there with Hannah very shortly indeed. Now, if you've enjoyed this, and we hope you have, the good news is we already know that we're going to come back next year. So, hot off the press, we've booked the dates. They're in the diary, the 11th and 12th of March, 2026, and you're 100% invited. So we'll be back, and if you want to join us next year, then please do scan the QR code, hopefully on the screen at some point, if not immediately. Thank you, there's the QR code, and you can secure your spot. And we've got, of course, you'll be happy to hear an early bird discount for that as well. All that remains for me to say is a massive thank you, firstly to all of our partners and to our sponsors who make this possible, also to the whole production team and to our executive producer as well, Scott English, who makes the whole thing happen. So we'll say some more thank yous, but for now, thank you for being a fantastic audience. And until next time, goodbye. We'll hand you over to Hannah.
Thank you very much. Jade, would you come and join me on this spot over here? I'm now going to be joined by Jade to ask her a few more questions. Hello. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, I'm good.
You're so impressive, right? Is this your first startup?
Yes. So I've worked at startups. Sorry, I want to drop that. I've worked at startups for the past like 4 or 5 years in the UK, but this is the first time I'm building.
That's what I thought. So just give people at home a flavour of your career. How do you know when to take the leap working for other people's startups? Obviously gleaning loads of really important information that you're then able to take on your journey with you.
Well, I mean, I came up with the idea of Main Hookup around 2018-19, and that was when I was at a tech company, but it was family run, well established. They've been around for maybe like 20-ish years. And I thought, okay, I need to go and start working for companies that are at the ground zero at the very beginning so that I can learn what that looks like and get kind of an understanding of things like funding, you know, and how to build a team and where you should start when it comes to tech. So that's what I did. Worked for angel, VC and crowdfunded backed startups, did that for a few years. And then when I thought, I know enough that I will not make a mess of this, that was when I decided to work on Main Hookup full time.
So, when it comes to the investment stuff, because that is quite scary, isn't it? We all know the terrible stats around the amount of money that goes to women-founded businesses and particularly black women-founded businesses.
Yeah.
So was that intimidating?
Less intimidating and more so it's just kind of understanding what kind of funding is right for us. Mm-hmm. I think I looked at it more from a space of, okay, I need to figure this out. And that's much more helpful than going into something fearful, because if you're going into something fearful, then you will make decisions based on fear, and those are never good ones. So, you know, I kind of made the decision early on, let's test the waters with VCs. for me, we kind of landed on actually, I think angels and crowdfunding would be better. So that's the route that we're going to pursue in the future. But I spent like the best part of 6-7 months actually documenting my fundraising journey live through a newsletter, just to give people an idea of what that looks like when they go through that journey.
And we were talking about this on a panel yesterday, actually, about the different forms of funding available.
Yeah.
Things like grants that often get overlooked, and obviously the best thing about those is you don't have to pay them back and you don't have to give up any equity in your business.
Yes, yeah, 100%. Non-dilutive funding is really, like, it's overlooked a lot of the time because people just think, oh, investment, let's run out and get some checks. But actually, if you know how to write a really, really good funding application, if you learn the formula to doing that, that's a really good opportunity to get some money in.
So obviously the next question is going to be, what is that really good formula?
That I can't say, because that's not something that I've ever done purely by myself. You know, you pull your team in to help you. But I do know a couple of amazing founders that have done that themselves as well. And more often than not, they have a team or 2 or 3 people that will help do all of that work as well.
And you said when you started the business, you were at a stage where you were confident you wouldn't make a mess of it.
Yeah.
Does that mean you haven't made any mistakes so far?
Oh, God, no.
What would you say is the biggest mistake you've made so far, and what did you learn from it?
The biggest mistake? I would say don't rush into conversations with funding too soon. A lot of the time people do that because they're thinking, oh, if we have X amount, we can do all of this. Or that actually the best thing that you can do is channel energy into building up your own runway. It is challenging. It's not easy, especially when you're starting and you're bootstrapping and you're throwing all of your own cash at it. But you will benefit so much more from actually building it up that way and then being in a position where it's like, okay, now let's go and speak to investors.
And last question for you, Jade, and I promise we really will let you go.
That's
so we were talking a lot earlier today about resilience and how you build up personal resilience. Because this stuff, I mean, I feel exhausted just interviewing entrepreneurs like you for the paper. Like, how do you keep going? Like, how do you make sure that those internal reserves are topped up?
I think there is definitely something of expecting difficulty before you get there. So, and I say this because you encounter so many different forms of struggle when you're building, whether that be like you emotionally or financially tired or, you know, anything else that can happen. But if you are prepared for that fight to come, when it's here, you're ready. So it just means that you're less likely to throw in the towel because it's like, I was expecting it to be hard. Just expect it to be hard. So when the difficulty comes, you're not going to back down.
Oh, I love that. What a great tip. Thank you so much, Jade. It's great to meet you today. Thank you. See you later. Thank you, Lucie. My last guest of the entire show. Hello, welcome. Your hair is amazing.
Oh, thank you.
Is this all down to your oils?
It is, yeah. I actually had quite a lot cut off it as well, so...
And this is all your own hair?
Yeah, all natural.
Imagine, that would be an exclusive, wouldn't it, right here, if it suddenly turned out it was hair extensions.
Yeah.
It's all a big room.
It's definitely mine.
So I want to go back to talking about the Dragon's Den thing, because I think it's fascinating.
Yeah.
And you spoke before to the BBC about the impact that it has on your confidence. Like, if you could go back in time, would you still do it? All things considered.
100%, yes. It's a risk going on any TV show, especially something like Dragon's Den, you know. It's there to kind of entertain. You know, I was in the den for over 3 hours and then it gets cut down to 15, 20 minutes and you don't know what they're going to show, what they're not going to show. So it was a bit of a roll of the dice. But for me, I have been so genuine and authentic in building my brand from day one that I thought if I go in there and I'm just myself, what is the worst that can happen? And the best happened. So since coming out, it's just been, since the episode aired, it's just been completely life-changing. It has taken my business and my personal brand in just a complete different direction beyond my wildest dreams. Like, I knew we would make a big play on it on social media and that there'd be a lot of views and new followers and possibly press coverage. But I didn't anticipate this happening. But at the time, it felt like the end of the world. Those first 2 days were brutal, yeah.
So was that just the confidence that, having your confidence knocked by them all saying no? And then there was that awful Tuka Suleiman thing about where he sort of made an offer and then he retracted it. Just tell viewers a little bit about that and the impact it had.
Yeah, so I am not an overly, I don't know whether you'd call it humble or something, but I'm really reserved about what I've done, what I've achieved in my business. So I never ever would have gone into Dragon's Den. You see some people go on stage and they're just so overconfident and just think they know everything. I'm the complete opposite to that. So I already have a little bit of imposter syndrome. I started this business completely accidentally. I don't boast myself as being, and I never have, it's not like I've kind of, it's not that I boasted myself as being a destined entrepreneur. This all just sort of happened to me. So I do have imposter syndrome anyway. And then to be told no by 6 people who I've spent the last however many years looking up to and thinking, I want to be like you, it just felt very personal. But they were right at the time. I went on there nearly a year ago and I didn't need to raise any capital. I've been in a fortunate position with my business. I didn't need to take investment. Whether I will in the next 12 months or so is a different conversation. But I didn't really know what I was getting myself in for or what I was asking for. And I did take it very personally because I felt, oh, you don't like me. But from an investor's perspective, it's of course completely objective. It's not about me. It's not about my business's purpose. It's just too much of a financial risk for them. But I didn't really understand that at the time, and it just felt like, I don't know, it felt like I'd just been rejected 6 times on national TV. So
yeah, of course. And obviously things will work out okay in the end. Clearly, as you say, it's worked out all right for you. But do you have any advice for any kind of young, particularly female founders watching, and they might struggle with a bit of imposter syndrome or low confidence? But what would you say to them?
I would say it gets better as you get a little bit older. I started the business when I was 21. It wasn't really a business, though. It's only really been a proper established business for about 3 years now. But things do get easier. At the beginning, you prepare yourself because you are going to be faced with even some of the backlash I had from Dragon's Den. People, even though, I've got a business with a 6.5 million turnover, people look at me like I'm really stupid, and especially because I sell hair beauty product, there's so much stereotyping around it. I would just say, just be ready for it. You're going to go into the accountants or speak to someone, and they're going to see if you have a boyfriend or a partner or a brother or a dad. They will probably 99% of the time assume that he is the owner, he's the founder. That's what I've experienced anyway. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm doing a lot of stuff to try and change it, but that is what you've got in store, and it's just more hurdles. But that's what makes women so great and so strong, because we get through them.
Absolutely we do, and you're incredibly inspiring to so many. So thank you so much, Lucie, for sharing all of that with us. Thank you so much for joining us today. And I can see lurking in the wings over here, one Ollie Barrett.
Lurking away. We're reunited.
So, wow, what a few days, Ollie.
We're crossing the finish line,
We
Hannah.
are crossing the finish line.
Elite Business Live 2025 comes to an end.
It has come to an end.
It's
but
been packed.
Not before a few reflections.
Well, I think it's high time for those reflections.
You go first.
All right. Well, I was just listening to what you were talking about with Lucie, actually, because there's a contrast there, isn't there? Because in a world of Dragon's Den and X Factor and even elections, there's this thought of overnight success. You go from zero to hero. But my biggest takeaway from the last 2 days is the sheer persistence and patience it takes to build a world-class business. And it's come through in every conversation that we've had. And I just absolutely take my hat off to the founders and leadership teams that bear with it through the thick and the thin. So that's my big takeaway, that, overnight success can be a long time in the making. Yeah.
Absolutely,
How
I
about you?
completely agree. And I think one of the other big themes that's come through is this theme of community. I feel like more people have mentioned it than ever in the last couple of days. And I think without trying to blow our own trumpet as an event, but it is what makes events like this so important. And the number of people who've come up in the break times and said, I've just met somebody I would have never met before. I wouldn't have even connected with them on LinkedIn, as Johnny was saying, which is, of course, a great resource. But there's nothing like meeting up in person, is there?
There is nothing like it. And there's a rhyme there, isn't there? Because when we hear about inclusion within companies, you talk about how do you create a safe environment for people to express themselves. And actually, we're trying to do that on camera and on stage. And I do think over the last few years, the topics have evolved. They've got more personal.
Yep.
They would have been very business conversations 5 years ago. And there's, the word vulnerability gets used a lot, but, it does seem that people are being more open.
For sure, and there have been some moments of vulnerability. We were talking to Amy earlier on the panel, Shah, sharing lots of her story, Joe yesterday. And I think the kind of blending of the personal and the business is a theme that's here to stay.
Yeah, so the good news is, although Elite Business Live 2025 seems like it's in the rearview mirror, it isn't, because all of our sessions have been captured. You can catch up on them again, so please do that. And I've got news. But first, Hannah, stand by. A thank you to all of our partners and sponsors. Let's have a quick look at them on the screen now. And a huge virtual round of applause for them, because if it wasn't for them, this would be entirely virtual, if not non-existent.
Exactly, yeah.
A serious thank you to them. But Hannah, do you want to know my breaking news?
Oh, tell me. You know I love breaking news.
Here we go. Tell the times. We've already confirmed our dates for next year, so hold those dates, the 11th and 12th of March 2026. Do you get an incentive for being the first to know? Of course you do. Through the QR code on the screen, you can get early bird tickets. So I, for one, am hugely looking forward to that. So if you've been tuned in virtually, why not come and join us in person next year? That would be fantastic to see you. Hannah, what else to say to reflect?
Well, don't forget, lots of the content will be coming out live through the Elite Business website, so keep your eyes peeled for that. And of course, sign up to their great newsletter, because I know they feed some of it through there too. You can keep the conversation going, of course, on any of the topics we've discussed over the last few days by using the hashtag EBL2025. But I think that's about it. That's all the business covered. So from us here in the studio, for all of the Elite Business Live team, thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next year.
Well, that's absolutely right. And so from me, Ollie Barrett, and from
Hannah Previtt,
it is a huge thank you. And by the way, we thrive off your feedback, and whatever topics are top of your mind, we want to put them on our centre stage. So as Hannah said, that hashtag EBL2025, let us know, what do you want to see discussed? Who do you want to see discussing it? So for now and for this year, thank you. And until next time, goodbye.